we're a little, in fact, we are far behind in terms of the conversation from a global perspective, as far as mental health is concerned. But it's actually, very heartening for us to be actually talking about this on a day like this, So let's just get into what we're talking about today. Holiday.
Yes.
Okay, how do we leverage a day like today to improve and impact on our mental health?
Okay, thank you very much. So the holiday actually presents a very opportune time for someone to actually wind down and take some time off his daily schedule to actually reflect and find ways in which he or she can improve his or her mental health. Now, mental health is actually a state, okay, meaning that it's more or less something that exists over a period of time. So mental health is a state as compared to maybe, let's say, what your emotions are. Okay, mental health spans a period of time. And that means that it's something that cannot be achieved, should I say, rather in a very short period of time. And WHO defines mental health as a state of well-being, okay, in which a person is able to realize his abilities and cope with stresses. Now, as a state, this definition actually connotes some form of introspection. It's a state of well-being. You're actually able to identify your abilities and then cope with your stresses. If you can't cope with your stresses or identify your stresses, how can you cope with them?
Okay.
So it's actually the holiday actually presents us with a time to actually do some introspection on what we can do. Many people might think that, okay, it's a holiday, so okay, let me just watch a movie, let me just go out to see a friend. That's good. It might actually improve your emotional states at a particular point in time. However, when it has to do with your mental health, you would have to put in some form of work. It might not be a day, but then you need some period to do that. So the very first step in the holiday is trying to identify how you can improve of your mental health. Maybe if you have stresses at home, how you can, or at work, what you can do to actually improve or work on that. So the holiday actually presents you with an opportunity to actually sit down and then reflect a bit on your mental health states. Yes.
Okay. Let's go back a little bit.
Sure.
What are some of the things that are in our lives, like a normal daily life, not necessarily an event or something cataclysmic happening to you, but just a normal daily life that everybody lives? What are some of the things that pose dangers to our mental health in terms of the well-being?
Okay, sure. So I'd like to take it from more or less a generic point of view. Okay. Now, factors that affect our mental health can be environmental, they can be biological, or they can be genetic or hereditary. Now, environmental, these are the common ones which have got to do with things in our environments. Let's say unhealthy relationships, stress at work, or maybe other factors, maybe some challenges that we are experiencing. Genetic can be people develop mental health conditions as a result of some genes they inherit from their parents, and biological as a result of infections or other forms of illnesses. So when it comes to things that can impact our mental health, we would have to identify whether they're genetic or environmental, and this would actually influence our approach. If it's environmental, we can actually do something. Let's say you actually have a stressor at your work. Okay, how do I deal with this stressor? Yes, you can actually do something about it. So the approach differs from the kind of stressor you're actually experiencing. Yeah.
I see. Okay, so let's look at a situation where you're going through, let's say it's work.
Okay.
Right. But you have to go to work.
Yes.
You can't say that I'm avoiding the workplace because of the stresses that exist there. How do you cope? How do you manage? How do you circumnavigate the situation so that you're still working, you're still efficient, you're still beneficial to your bosses, but you're able to, deal with the stresses that exist?
Yes. So that's a very interesting question. Like you said, so let's say it's work. So let me just give a hypothetical case. You've been working in a place for about 2 or 3 years, and then you go there, the routine you're supposed to do is quite stressful. It gets quite stressful. There are set practices, there are set routines you have to do. It might be, if you identify the stresses, okay, maybe perhaps you have a lot to do within a very short period of time. You have so many meals coming in.
Yeah.
It might be quite challenging to actually change those stresses abruptly. So you'd have to actually devise a way that's over a long period of time to try to make things easier for yourself. is it an interpersonal problem you're having with someone?
Okay.
How do you fix that relationship problem you're having with someone at work? Is it having too many chores on your hands? How do you work about that? So being able to identify what's the
What
kind
is
of
actually
problems
causing
are,
it?
and then it might not be a one day, it might not be a one-time solution, but then it might span a period of time because you might have maybe certain laid down principles at work. So it takes a while, but then being able to identify those stresses or those challenges is the very first step in trying to provide a solution to them. So the nature of the problem actually depends on what you can actually do to actually, should I say, alleviate that kind of challenge.
Yeah.
So it actually depends on their nature, its nature, and then finding a practicable plan over a period of time to actually work on them. And you can't work in isolation as well as work. You might have to involve other people, maybe
Okay.
talk to your superiors or talk to your colleagues as well to try to help you address those challenges.
So, in the normal, typical Ghanaian various communities that you find, as soon as you start to talk about having mental health challenges, the question comes, why you they mad? Or I owe Bodamana, Talk to us about the scale, the range. There are people who appear very normal and conduct themselves normally, but suffer from certain challenges. How do they first of all identify that they need help, right? And because you see, of course, if you don't know that you need help, you don't seek help, right? How do you identify that they need help? Because I think when it goes to the other end of the scale, it's very obvious.
Yeah.
So others may jump in and say, you need help. But when it's not obvious, but you're going through things, how do you identify those challenges and say, I need help before it becomes worse?
Okay.
Yeah.
So mental health disorders actually present in maybe mild, moderate, or severe forms. Now, people can have, should I say, challenges with their emotions, but it becomes a mental health disorder once it starts interfering with your social and occupational well-being. Okay, so how you relate with other people and then your daily activities, that's when it becomes a significant mental health disorder. So at that point, you realize that the way I relate with people or these emotions are actually affecting my social well-being or my occasional well-being. And that's, at that point, it's highly likely that it's actually an established mental health disorder. So at that point, you'd have to realize that you actually need help.
Yeah.
You can't go through a day in the way you usually used to do it. So at that point, you realize that you actually need help. Yeah, so that's a very red flag when you notice that, okay, going to the day or doing your normal activities becomes quite challenging. You know that, okay, you might have a mental health disorder. And the very first step is in acknowledging that you actually need some form of help and then reaching out to someone. Unfortunately, there's so much stigma attached to mental health disorders. Like people will say, oh, are you going mad?
Yeah.
Who knows, you might actually lose your job as well. So it's talking to someone you can actually, a confidence, okay? Everybody needs some form of social interaction.
Yeah.
Everybody needs people around them. Talk to someone who is not judgmental, someone we know can encourage you and open up to that person. But then it really matters who you talk to. The person can actually talk you down or actually give some form of bad advice. But talk to someone. Almost all professional environments have a form of a counselor or the other, be it school, church, or workplace. So talk to someone. It could be an HR at a workplace. Talk to someone you can actually trust. That's the very first step in trying to provide some solution to whatever I identify.
Now, I also want to address it from another perspective. What about us who are the rest of the community, right? If we identify or see someone as going through a challenge, how do we relate without being scornful, without being judgmental, without victimizing, and stigmatizing? What can you say to the community?
Okay, sure. So everybody, the stigma is largely because most or some mental health disorders have some form of, should I say, they look more or less like spiritual manifestations. Okay, so many people attach some spiritual connotations to them. The very first thing you can do in helping someone is to provide a listening ear to the person. You provide a listening ear to the person. Know that, make the person understand that you care about what the person is going through. You may not have to actively provide some form of definitive help or care, but then just being there for the person, listening to the person in itself is enough. And try to validate what they are experiencing. Okay, you don't need to say that, oh, snap out. Just validate what they're experiencing. Just have that listening for them. Give them that attention. That's the very first step in doing that to prevent stigmatizing them.
Okay, so let's look at some of the activities that generally help.
Yes.
In keeping us in a good state of mental well-being. What would you say are some of the activities that people can engage in? I mean, for example, I'm thinking in my mind, maybe sports, dancing. I don't know, what would you say are some of the activities?
I think one of the foremost ones is that's having or maintaining healthy relationships. Okay? Keeping people around you who can actually help you develop yourself, or who are actually healthy to you, your emotional well-being. The world is made up of human beings, and human beings are the ones who create solutions and the ones who also create problems. And human beings are stressors themselves. So the very first step is in having healthy relationships, keeping healthy relationships. At least you should have a friend, a best friend, or someone you can actually confide in. So very first step is in keeping very healthy relationships. Also, not having, should I say, or impracticable expectations for yourself, knowing your strengths and knowing your limits, because some people actually develop mental health conditions because of some, should I say, some standards they have created for themselves. Okay, when they're not able to attain, then it takes them to a mental health disorder. So knowing yourself, so knowing your strength as well, and then what you can do as regards that. And also another thing is that exercising and staying healthy. Okay, having one form of other physical disorder can actually bring about a mental health condition as well. Exercising regularly. Exercising is known to increase the amount of endorphins you have in your body, and then it's more or less enlightens your mood or makes you more emotionally sound. So exercising and keeping a very good physical activity routine as well, and then avoiding substances.
Avoiding substances.
Yes, substances. Yes, as much as possible.
Substances like what?
Marijuana. And this more maybe crack. Yes.
Okay. So substance abuse and all that. Yes. Okay. Right. Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you very much. Dr. Achu Latte, he's a medical doctor and also the CEO of Mind It GH. Tell us a little bit, just a few seconds about Mind It. What do you do?
So we basically use innovation to screen the population for psychological distress, and then work to provide them with affordable and accessible mental health care. We do that through our short code, which is toll free. So when you dial our short code, you can actually *844 *555# *844 *555# toll free on all networks across the country.
Okay. How can people?
Hi there. We hope you enjoyed the show.
Make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share with your friends.
This is Breakfast Daily on City TV.
Join the Breakfast Daily team Monday through Fridays from 7:30 a.m. to 10. Join us for breakfast daily, only on City TV.